Hey, it's Kane here from Industry Rockstar and Kane Alessia, and we're looking forward to seeing you at the upcoming world-class speaker. I wanted to take just a moment here to talk to you about something very important around speaking, which is the ability to get an opportunity to be speaking. So the best speakers in the world become good speakers by actually speaking, right? So you never become a good dancer by just thinking about dancing or talking about dancing. You have to actually dance, and when it comes to speaking, it's exactly the same thing. In order to become a great speaker, you have to actually speak. Now, this should be an interesting point to you because you may be thinking, well, I need to be a great speaker to go speak. No. Nobody is a great speaker when they get out and they start speaking. Everybody has to go out and start speaking to be able to practice and do speaking in order to become a great speaker. So the question is then, how do we actually get in front of audiences? Now, the first thing to consider is that there is offline and there is online. And the first thing you want to consider about getting out there to present and speak is, do you feel more suited by personality to be doing it offline or online? Now, some people love to be live in rooms. Like, that's me. I love to be live in rooms. I mean, I have no problem recording this video, but man, I can't wait to actually get there and be in person with you, to see you and squeeze you and shake your hand and talk to you and have you in front, tell you jokes and listen to you laugh, right? I absolutely love that. But many other speakers or presenters or business owners or professionals love to deliver things online. They love to record videos, or they love to use webinars or teleconferences, or they love to do studio interviews, with media, or they love to use Zoom or Skype or things like that. And so neither one's right or wrong. In fact, they're both very powerful. In fact, using both and synergizing those two are very powerful. At the upcoming world-class speaker, we're going to be teaching you specific techniques to be doing things in rooms and also be doing things online that will help you become very successful in both, and then how to synergize these two things from the business aspect to really create the most opportunity in action. So the first thing that we say is, we don't want you to actually start thinking about how to attract people into your own rooms. And here's what I mean. I would prefer that you don't spend a lot of time at first working on setting up your own conferences, your own live events, or your own webinars or your own teleconferences. What I would really prefer is that you're actually utilizing the leverage of being in other people's rooms, other people's conferences, and in other people's webinars, podcasts, media channels, because they already have the built-in audiences. They already have people that are coming to them to listen to their platform, and then they need to plug in or bring speakers, educators, or experts into that platform because they need content and people that will engage their audiences. That means that you can walk directly into a webinar, a podcast, a radio show, or a live conference, or a meetup group, or a networking group, and you can immediately have an audience ready there to receive your message. Now, this is much easier because when you're a presenter and a speaker, you essentially have three things going on when you're hosting your own conferences or you're running your own webinars. Here's what you have going on. Number one, you're a speaker, right? So you have to actually be speaking, presenting, delivering, and you might be influencing, selling, if you're selling a product or a service. So now you have that to think about, and that's got its whole world. And at the world-class speaker, we're going to decode what we call a signature talk. A talk that you're going to do over and over again when you present online or offline to engage your audience to take action into whatever you want, whether you're selling them a belief, whether you're pitching them on capital, if you're talking to investors, whether you're selling to an audience your products and services, whether you're doing meetings with professionals at your office, or you're talking to the board, or you're talking to the media. Doesn't matter. We're going to show you how to create what's called a signature talk. That signature talk you'll use around the planet 100,000 times. You'll do it over and over again, okay? A good friend of ours named Alex Mendozian is a very internationally famous digital marketer and speaker. He always says, if you want to be really successful, get your speech, get your presentation, get it down, and don't change it. Keep it the same. Do it over and over again. But that's the first thing that you have in the three things, right? You got to be a speaker or presenter, and you give your signature talk. Now, signature talk is usually designed around 90 minutes long. This is why we're going to show you how to create that 90-minute signature talk. Therefore, if you have a presentation that's 30 minutes long or 60 minutes long or even 5 minutes long, maybe you're doing a 5-minute interview, you're going to be able to pull the content out of that 90-minute talk so you always have enough time and enough content for you to do anything you want with. However, there's two other positions when you're running your own conferences. The second one is the promoter, okay? Now you got to be promoting and bringing people into that conference. You've got to be the marketer. You got to get all those butts in the seats, or if you're online, you got to get all those ears tuned in to your podcast, or those eyes tuned into your podcast, or the ears on the telephone. Okay, no problem. We do that. I mean, every year we fill up, what do we do? About 80 seminars a year across 32 different countries, and we're constantly filling them up, and we produce produce events that sometimes have, 3 to 5,000 people in them. Sometimes we have events with 30 to 50 people in them, and everything in between, 100, 500, 1,000, everything. So we understand a lot about actually getting people into rooms, how to market, how to build, your landing pages or advertise or get people to show up or use partnerships to have things to people co-promote, have sponsors and things like that. But as you can tell, that's a whole science until itself, marketing. And the third position when you're running your own conference is the logistics. You are the logistics coordinator. You are the organizer, okay? So you've got speaker, marketer or promoter, and organizer. Now, what we suggest is that you really just focus on one thing when you're getting started. And we want to make it really simple for you. That means we're just going to focus you on presenting and speaking. Now, you may be saying, I don't even want to run my own events, Kane, in which case, that's fine. You don't ever have to run your own events. But as you'll notice, when you start to organize your own conferences, your own online events, and things like that, there is a real power to it, but that is the second stage, okay? The first stage is to focus on your presentation, your signature talk. So then that gives us to the real question of this video, which is, how do you get opportunities to be speaking in somebody else's networking groups, meetup groups, conferences, webinars, podcasts, teleconferences? How do you get into their world so that you can just leverage and utilize their database? Well, I'm going to give you a couple tips here, and then we're going to take you through a world-class speaker, the exact way that you're going to be able to reach out and speak to organizers all over the world to be able to have them take you seriously about actually having you go on their stages. Because what you want is you want people that you reach out to say, you know what, this would be awesome to have you on our next podcast. You should really come to our next conference. We'd love to feature you at our next conference as either a main stage speaker or a side stage speaker. Now, there's many, many different types of events, live and online. And so you want to start to think about, what events would you love to participate in? Do you want to be in a large conference, like a technology conference, an industry conference, a medical conference, a spirituality conference, a consciousness conference, a business conference? Do you want to be in something that's specific to an industry? Or would you prefer to be online at a very specific podcast where someone is just interviewing? Or do you just want it all? In which case, that's how I am. Anything, doesn't matter. If someone's listening, I am talking. So as you start to understand this, the first step is to connect to the organizers of the events, right? So now you understand the different positions. There's speaker, promoter, and organizer. And the organizer, which is sometimes the same person, so maybe the promoter and the organizer could be the same person, right? So if you were going to throw your own event, your own conference, you would be the speaker, the promoter, and the organizer. So who you want to look for is the person that's basically organizing the event and organizing the speakers. Now, how do you do that? Well, the internet's very powerful. Your friendship circle is very powerful. And in fact, you're going to actually see the world-class speaker. We're going to do a networking game where you're going to actually be able to create contacts for speaking all over your national place, domestically, internationally. If you want to start speaking internationally, you're going to realize that people are connected to organizers all over the planet. Today, there are more hotels, conference centers, meeting rooms, places all over the planet. Every major city, you've got dozens and dozens of hotel, conference centers, and meeting places, and every one of these things are filled full of meetings in their ballrooms, in their conference centers, Monday through Sunday. There's people meeting, and there's always somebody doing what? Speaking, right? And that could be you. So we need to start connecting to organizers. And the first thing that I want to suggest you do is you either get on the internet and you start researching, and you can start looking up groups in your area that have your target market. So who do you want to speak to? Do you want to speak to professional women who are in between the ages of 30 and 50? You want to speak to parents that have young children that might be saving for their, for their education? Do you want to talk to people who are health nuts, who want to be talking to you about health, and detox or weight loss or things like that? Just start to think about, who do you want to be speaking? Who do you imagine your audience is in front of you? So that you can start reaching out to organizers that organize events just like that. Now, we can use the internet to research that. If you get online, you get on Google and you start researching professional women networking groups in Stockholm, Sweden, or parents groups in Chicago, Illinois, United States, or health nut communities in Singapore, or organic or vegetarian communities, vegetarian meetups, vegetarian conferences in Singapore or in Hong Kong or Sydney, Australia. It doesn't matter. You're going to find these groups meeting everywhere across the world. So once you find them, let's start to look for who the organizers are. And the organizers are people that you want to connect to talk about coming in and speaking at their groups. I'll give you one other great tip before we wrap this up, which is your friends, your family, and your colleagues, the people around you. They all probably belong to groups that are meeting regularly that would be able to introduce you right to the organizers. Ask your family, ask your friends, ask your brothers and sisters, ask your colleagues, ask everybody around you about who they know that's an event organizer that either organizes a webinar, a podcast, podcast, I don't know, a radio show, a conference, a meetup group, a community gathering, any way you want to put it. If you start asking people around you before you even come to the event, what you're going to start to notice is that you have access to organizers and speaking opportunities everywhere, all over the place. Even if you live in a tiny little town where there's not much going on, you could be setting up webinars, talks online, all day long, twice a day, 3 times a day. And when you start to understand how to connect to organizers and communicate powerfully to them, you're going to get chosen to show up on their platforms. You know why? Because they need content. They need people sharing their expertise, sharing their stories, sharing their message, and sharing their ideas. So as you start to do that, you're going to start to open up a world of opportunity, and you're going to start to notice that there are speaking opportunities everywhere. And then at the World Class Speaker, we're going to show you how to create your signature talk, how to create what you need to go out and impress the organizers to get them to say yes to you so that you can show up on their stages, at their conferences, in their networking groups, on their webinars, on their teleconferences, and on their podcasts. Okay, so that's your homework for right now. If you take it on, just start to think about who you can be talking to and getting introduced to that's an organizer of an event, a community group, a conference, something online or offline, and start to think about what modality are you most comfortable or most inspired by to share online or offline. That's all you got to do. And then we will see you soon at the World Class Speaker. Can't wait to see you there. Take care.